I ended up isolating myself a lot from other people, and I didn't necessarily have the best relationships with anyone, whether it was coaches, teammates, or um, like even family members in my life. And because of that, like in times of isolation, though, I spent it like studying or reading or like um, playing basketball. Majority of the time is when I would do that. Isolating myself and stuff helped a lot when I was younger growing up. Now that I'm an adult, I'm having a lot more issues in terms of like relationships with people because of me isolating myself and just popping off and choosing to be angry instead of being okay. Like, yeah, you may feel angry, but why? And you can respond differently. You don't have to show everyone that you're angry in your response. I've definitely made a lot of progress. The same headspace that I was in a year ago, I'm definitely not in now. I'm very grateful for that. Therapy has like contributed a lot to that. And also just having like, even my boyfriend, he's really, really supportive with that. He's actually the one who was like, look, you talk about you need therapy, you need to heal, but like you haven't gone. You should go. Like you should really start. You should really figure that out. So definitely kudos to him because like that support in going to therapy and starting therapy, like it was definitely the push that I needed because I knew it was something that I needed and I had tried it before. And Black women would inbox me and they would talk about how like, well, this stuff is really dope. Like I'm trying to get into the gym or I'm trying to do better with my mental health. And I just realized that there are a lot of other Black women who are feeling similar to me as well. And it's like they just need that motivation, that kick, that push. So then I just started like creating reels and stuff and trying to be more consistent with posting because I realized there were a lot of Black women like who really just needed the motivation and like they just needed the push. And if I can do that simply by just posting and you seeing that like when you wake up in the morning or when you just happen to be scrolling through your newsfeed, during break or whatever, and it pushes you to want to think about, dang, like maybe I should go to therapy or maybe I should find, a better, healthier outlet. Maybe I should start working out. Maybe I should start eating better. Like the impact of that itself, it's like, yeah, I want to be able to do that for other Black women.
Anxiety for me translates in a way that's like doom or like danger. So I'm like, everything's like dark and it's just like, feels like something really bad is gonna happen when like nothing really bad is probably gonna happen. And so just moments of that where it's just like tunnel vision and it's just dark and I'm just like, nothing is good right now. And I don't know, I have had moments in the past where I'm like, thoughts for sure. I've had many times where I've thought like, I don't even know if I want to keep like living my life. And so I feel like, I don't know if I have one specific moment that was my lowest, but just a lot of moments built up in that way. Just like leaning on the people around me was super helpful for me and opening up to my coach about it was super helpful, opening up to my teammates about it because I know mental health there is a conversation around it these days, which is amazing, but like I feel like it should just be so normalized that you can just like pull a teammate aside and talk about it. And it's just like, this is amazing. Like it's so hard to open up about it. And I remember freshman year at the NSIC tournament, I was struggling again. And my teammate, Sydney Wentland, I don't know if you know her. She played at Denver. Yes, and played at Denver, Concordia, and then she's over on the East Coast right now. But she was like a huge part of the Hidden Opponent, which is a mental health organization, and a campus captain for that. And we just had a really quick conversation at the tournament one day, and just kind of talked about like what was going on and all this stuff. And literally just that one conversation opened up so much for me. I was like, wow, I can talk about this and it's okay to talk about it and it's okay to like be real with people and tell people what's going on. And then I was like, now I have a friend in this and she has my back and she knows what's going on. And so yeah, it's so hard to get out of the ruts and the lows, but I think you just have to keep moving and lean on the people who you have, and the people who support you will support you and be there for you. And the amount of support and like uplifting words I received was just so overwhelming and like very surprising to me. And so it's really hard to talk about it, but it's so helpful to just know that you're not alone and everyone goes through their own stuff. So, yeah.
It honestly shocked me, myself, that I ended up going back to basketball because barely anyone knows this other than my high school team or a couple of my high school teammates, but this year for basketball, I almost didn't even play high school because last year, once again, I just didn't have a very good experience playing high school basketball. I've been ill. I just lost all my confidence in myself. I would get panic attacks a lot. I was just not having fun. And that's when I was like, you know what, I'm done with basketball. I'm not going to play in college. I was like set on not playing in college. Sometimes in practice, like something would happen. Say we'd be scrimmaging. It would even be the smallest thing. Like this all happened pretty much last year. Like the smallest thing would happen where, I'd drive in, I'd drive, miss a layup, or I'd shoot, air ball. Something, that everyone does in basketball. But I would just shut down, like I'd miss a shot and I'd just shut down and be like, I suck. I would just, beat myself up, like, why are you even playing basketball? You suck at this. I'd be really mean to myself. And then I'd get the ball back. I would literally not even look at the hoop. I'd just look for someone to throw it to because I didn't want it. Like I was like, don't give me the ball, I suck. Like I don't even want to do this. So it was just really hard because that's how I felt a lot of the year playing. And then I would try and I pretty much just had no confidence in myself. I just thought I was terrible. I don't know why, but just something happened where everything that I used to have, all my confidence and skill, it just went away somehow, disappeared. And so I was just super down on myself all the time. And then say I'd get yelled at in practice or something and I would already be beating myself up and then I'd get yelled at, that's when I'd start to have the panic attacks. And especially when we were running back and forth like killers and stuff, I'm huffing and puffing. And so I remember one time we were running the killers and I was already having a bad practice and then I already got yelled at and we were running. He made us keep running and running. And I remember I started I couldn't breathe. I started to be couldn't breathe. And it just kept worsening and worsening. And I was getting super scared because I literally couldn't breathe. I was trying to catch my breath and it just kept worsening. And then I started crying because I thought I was gonna choke. I don't know what. But basically one of my teammates who was on the team last year, Lindsay Layton, she's a captain. She ended up having to come bring me to the corner and calm me down. And she was telling me how what I was experiencing was a panic attack. And she was just telling me to breathe and breathe. And so I was just bawling and trying to struggle to get my breath back. But eventually she calmed me down. But then that's when I realized, because I'd never experienced that before. And then that's when I realized I must have really bad anxiety or something. And because the panic attacks, I was so confused what was happening because I couldn't breathe, and it was scary. And then I realized that was my first panic attack and I told my mom about it. And then she was really concerned. And then I experienced those a few more times. One happened in a game, actually. I came out of the game. I don't know what happened. I must have just thought I was playing really bad or something. And, got down on myself like always. And I went around the bleachers and had a panic attack again. Come back to the bench, sit down, and everyone they were probably confused because I went away and came back, but I came back with no tears pretty much. I looked normal, but my mom always knew that that's what was happening because she could see. My mom just knows when something's wrong. She can just tell when I'm not my normal self. So she knew that it was a panic attack, and I'd come back to the bench and she's across in the bleachers asked me what's wrong? I can see her asking what's wrong, and I would just always be the same. It would just be the same thing every time, a panic attack, and she could see sometimes tears in my eyes, and so it was a really big issue for a while, and it was just so hard not to freak out all the time. And I just remember every little thing that went wrong or something, I would just crash and shut down, and then I would get the panic attacks when I thought I would feel like I was playing so terrible, and my coach was yelling at me. it would just get so bad. That's when I got the panic attacks, and I'd have to go off by myself in the corner and collect myself. And sometimes I didn't even want to go back in the game for the rest of the game because I was like, didn't want it to happen again. And so that was really difficult to deal with last year. But ultimately kind of what happened or what helped me get out of it was I started talking with like a therapist, which helped, just let out my thoughts about it. And like, I just had other support, like my family and my friends, to really, instill confidence back in me and make me feel better when stuff like that was going on. And then like my therapist would give me she would give me some tricks on like, what I can do to like, when I feel myself starting to freak out, like she'd give me tips on how to like calm down before it happened. And so when I could feel myself getting, telling myself mean things or getting down on myself, I would just close my eyes, like on the bench. Like if I was on the bench, I'd like close my eyes and just like take some deep breaths. And then like I would just tell myself good things about, like I would try and tell myself like some good things I did and not think about the bad things I did. So I'd be like, oh, but I'd be closing my eyes and I'd be like, oh, I made this shot, I had that good pass. And so it would just be little things that I would try and remind myself. And then like the breathing really helped. And then when I'd get really riled up or, really anxious, I'd just count like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 10 to 1 and just keep doing that till I kind of calm down. But yeah, and then I guess, I don't know, it just kind of all eventually went away after a while. And then this year, I didn't have any instances like that really, no panic attacks. So it was kind of all last year, but it was hard to deal with for a while. But I'm happy that I overcame it and, because that was not fun. It's not fun when you're constantly tearing yourself down and crying and, it was just hard, but made it through. And then this year, something just like changed. Like I was like so surprised because, I almost didn't play after last year. I just was like, I told my coach before the season, my new coach, Tim, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna play, honestly. Like maybe I might just focus on volleyball. Like, and he was like, Sierra, like he was really like trying to convince me not to quit because he believed in me a lot. And my other coach, Seth Potter, he really believed in me. So they ultimately convinced me to stay, and Olivia Olson. They all convinced me I should play. And so, I started the season off like kind of unsure. And I was playing, and then I realized because they were like, you should come to the first week and see how you feel, whatever, come to practice. And I was kind of iffy, but I was like, okay, I guess so. So I came the first week and we practiced with the new coaching staff that we all got. And I ended up really liking it again. I don't know what changed, but I was just having fun. The coaches were really confident in me, positive, and I loved my teammates. And so it just kind of felt wrong to, not play. It felt wrong to quit. And especially since it was my senior year, it felt like I just felt like I should just do it because it's my last year. You don't know what could happen. Who knows if we'll go to state, And then
That aged well, didn't it?
Yeah, and it aged well because we ended up winning state. But it's just crazy how it started from me almost not even playing to helping my team win a championship.
There was an incident my 8th grade year where I had 9 kids in my graduating class, 6 of them were girls, where all 6 of us girls were going to leave the school because of something that had happened. And we decided to stay, and my parents were like, you need an outlet, and I got my outlet through basketball. But I will touch on it a little bit right now and probably a little bit later. I struggled with mental health issues, anxiety and depression, and mostly from that trauma that happened to me in 8th grade. Yeah, I still carry my trauma with me from 8th grade. And I left De La Salle, I want to say in October of my junior year. I could feel myself just disconnecting and disassociating every day. I just wasn't in my body. like myself, and it was somewhat because of the environment I was in at De La Salle. I was also struggling a little bit with my family dynamic. I had started to push away my parents, and that really strained our relationship to the point where I moved out to Marshall, Minnesota to live with my aunt and uncle. And they tried their best to help me, and it definitely helped my relationship with my parents. It healed that strain, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I didn't have the best experience out in Marshall. I was verbally abused by my uncle, and I left. I was there one day happy, like making friends. I was actually just about to be able to play on the varsity basketball team. My papers had been cleared, and I was just waiting for a game. And my uncle pulled me out of practice and was like, "You're going home." And I tried to fight it, and my parents came and picked me up and brought me back to Minneapolis. The battle going on in my head was one thing, and then there was another piece, like thinking about what people think happened to me or what people are concerned about regarding myself. That also added a kind of another factor. I participated in a 6-month DBT program, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, with my mom and my dad. It was like a family group therapy, and we did that twice a week for 6 months, and it created a common language for me to communicate with my mom. Like, if I was having a hard time, I would be able to like tell her in a way that she would understand, and she could help walk me through like coping skills, exercises, stuff like that. So I would say my therapy really, really, really helped. I stopped worrying about what people were thinking about me, which was what was bringing me a lot of the anxiety. I just kind of turned it off and focused on how I thought of me, and I think that also helped. I knew that I was kind of driving my own issues. I was my own monster, and as soon as I realized that, I was able to like draw back and change my thought process, change my perspective, how I looked at things, how I looked at myself. So a part of my therapy was learning my triggers and what made me susceptible to the overwhelming emotions that I was experiencing. I still to this day practice mindfulness. I learned a term, it's called a Teflon mindset. It's where you just let your ideas roll. You don't fight your emotions, you don't fight your feelings, you just let them exist and just move forward. And those skills that I learned and the radical acceptance piece of DBT, just I still use to this day. Every turn, every detour was just character building. I had to learn new tools on how to cope with the real world, or whatever sliver of the real world that I was living in when I was 16, like whatever. But I just had to grow up, and the adversity only made me stronger, like you said. And I'm now in a position where I would openly advocate for mental health in young women, young basketball players, because it is something that has kind of shaped me and who I am today.